สวัสดีค่ะ Good morning everyone. I would like to welcome you all to the orientation webinar for the STEM Focused School program. Today we have participants from Thailand, Cambodia, Malaysia, Myanmar, Brunei, the Philippines, Indonesia, and India. Thank you for attending and welcome again. You will know from reading the information we sent to you that the International Association for the Future STEM Workforce, or IAFSW, is committed to providing comprehensive support for schools across the region to develop a whole school integrated approach to implementing STEM. But the teachers to involve the students in authentic STEM learning experiences that engage them in solving real problems through the real context, including the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG, SDG related problems. IAFSW has developed the STEM focused school model and a comprehensive online supportive capacity building program to support schools in the development of a whole school integrated approach to the implementation of STEM. So today, we are going to introduce you to IAFSW and the STEM-focused school model and the comprehensive STEM-focused school capacity building program. We also want to consult with you and have a built-in time for your comments, advice, and questions. We would welcome your inputs at the end of the presentation. There may not be time for us to have all the inputs from you. So please also type your comments or questions in the chat box during the presentation or at the end. This webinar will be conducted in English. So for Thai participants, ในช่วงท้ายนะคะถ้ามีคนไทยถ้าไม่ถนัดเขียนภาษาอังกฤษสามารถเขียนมาเป็นภาษาไทยได้ใน chat box นะคะ Also we would like you to complete the survey at the end of the webinar so we can ensure that we address your school and your personal needs when finalizing the program and the schedule. So now I would like to hand over the webinar to the webinar leaders and also our international STEM expert and IAFSW International Advisory Board members. First, Dr. Mark Windale, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Pim. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this orientation webinar on the STEM Focused School model and the capacity building program, which has been designed to support schools to implement that model. I'd like to welcome familiar faces. As John, Ed, and I were mentioning, there are many of you who attended the project-based learning program that we ran last year, and also from Southeast Asia, from Myanmar, Indonesia, Thailand, Malaysia, Brunei, the Philippines, and Cambodia. So welcome familiar faces. Also welcome our new friends from India. We hosted a delegation from India earlier this week at IAFSW, and we're really pleased that the team have been able to attend today and also encourage colleagues in India to also attend the webinar today. And finally, also welcome to friends from Thailand. Again, very familiar faces and new faces, and thank you for attending today's webinar. As Pim mentioned, and I would like to emphasize, this is very much an orientation webinar. It's introducing you to the program, and we also want to consult with you because we want to ensure that the program that we finally provide for you is appropriate and addresses your needs, both as whole schools and as STEM teachers as well. So we do want to consult with you at the end of the webinar, and probably the best way in which we should do that, because of the large numbers, is by taking questions and comments through the chat box. And we will try and address as many of the comments and questions at the end of the webinar. And also, you will remember that Pim mentions that we have a survey which we would really like you to complete as well, which will give us further feedback and an understanding of your needs. And also it'll provide further opportunity for you to answer questions. And we will answer all those questions during the coming week so that all of you as participants will have the answers to all the questions that were asked by the various participants here today. So thank you all once again for attending. It's good to see you all. And I'm now going to ask John and Ed to introduce themselves before we start the webinar formally. Thank you. Ed, do you want to go first?
Okay, I'm good morning, but I'm actually in the United States, so it's Friday evening here. It's 9 o'clock, and it's I think it's 13 degrees Celsius, so it's warm here. I mean, we have 13 may seem cold to you, but it's warm here. I do the T&E of STEM, the technology and engineering. I was a teacher educator for over 30 years. Myself, John, and Mark have over 100 years experience, and we are here to help you. That's what this entire thing is about. We believe in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and we're here to help you. And I'll do a quick introduction here in a few minutes. John, go ahead. John and Mark have a background in science. John.
Hello, everyone. I, like Ed, am in the United States tonight. I'm a little bit behind him even. It's about 8:20 in California, which is where I'm coming from. My background is of 50 plus years, is pretty much evenly divided between classroom teaching in the US, classroom teaching in international schools, science and STEM consulting, and higher education, faculty, teacher education. We're very excited to have you here. We think we've developed a really good program based on our past experiences and modifications. So we look forward to working with you on this. Mark?
All right, thank you, John and Ed. And finally, me, I'm Mark. I'm from the UK, but I'm actually living permanently in Thailand. So I'm in Bangkok today. My background, as you will have seen from the bios that we provided in the brochure, is I was originally a science teacher and ultimately a member of school leadership team. And then for 21 years, I was at Sheffield Hallam University at the Centre for Science Education, where I was ultimately a director of the centre, and I ran national programs across the UK, both science education and STEM education programs for schools across the UK, and then across the world, and particularly here in Southeast Asia and South Asia. So again, just like Ed and John, I've been around for a long time, and the programs that we've developed are based on that experience of implementing both in our own classrooms and supporting schools across our countries and the world to implement STEM effectively in their schools. And that's one of the things I'd just like to emphasize before we start, is that we really do see STEM as engaging students in authentic STEM learning experiences in the classroom that engage them in solving real problems within real contexts. That's really important. We really do feel that's what we do as STEM teachers, was we engage students in solving real problems within real context. So now I'm going to pass over to Ed, and he'll introduce you to IAFSW. Thank you, Ed.
So again, welcome and thank you for attending tonight's free orientation webinar. This is for teachers. The International Association for the Future STEM Workforces for teacher and administrators. Let's show you a quick video about what we do. Go ahead, Mark.
Welcome to the International Association for the Future STEM Workforce, where we are shaping the future today. We empower students with cutting-edge tools and resources, essential for thriving in tomorrow's STEM workforce. Our focus extends beyond academics, enhancing foundational literacies, competencies, and emotional well-being. Innovation drives us. Our programs inspire creativity, critical thinking, and a passion for discovery. Aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, we are preparing students to tackle global challenges head-on. Our global network fosters collaboration, ensuring students gain a diverse, inclusive perspective. We are dedicated to sustainable development, nurturing socially responsible and environmentally conscious leaders. Through mentorship and partnerships, our students gain real-world experience, becoming workforce-ready. Join us in empowering the next generation at iafsw.org. Together, we are building a sustainable, innovative future.
So that is a quick introduction to the IAFSW. And our vision, I'll read our vision, but I'm not going to read our mission because it's very similar. Through our comprehensive, holistic approach, the International Association for the Future STEM Workforce is committed to providing students with the necessary tools and resources to prepare STEM workforce while actively contributing to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 goals, which by 2030, United Nations. Why we're doing this is we want to keep each nation competitive. That's why we're trying to teach about STEM careers and STEM education. That's why we believe to keep competitive. Go ahead, Mark. Here's some objectives and strategies for general education schools. Again, the sustainable development integration, the teacher training and development is very important, and that's why we're here tonight. Community engagement, etc. Mark, go ahead, next slide. More of our objectives for TVET, which is technical and vocational education and training institutions. Probably the most important thing here is our soft skill development, looking at industry trends, applied learning. Green workforce is very important too. Next slide. And of course, artificial intelligence. And now Mark or John will talk about this STEM focused school model. John, go ahead. And John, you're on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Ed. I would like to remind everyone who is viewing this to please mute your microphone so we don't get any background noise and conversations. That'll be very helpful and less distracting. Thank you so much. Yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about this model that we developed. The majority of the work was done by Mark and Ed with my input. This has come about in a couple of years of work, both from developing and then modifying programs that we've been involved in the last couple of years. So the STEM focused school is a program that is in collaboration with the South Korean company, the Korea Foundation for the Advancement of Science and Creativity, or KOFAC. And this program, we've designed it to provide support and information and training to a consortium of STEM-focused schools so that they can implement a comprehensive approach to STEM education. Thank you. Our three main goals are shown here on the right. They are embedded in the narrative on the left, but I'll just go through them quickly. The goals are to establish and support STEM-focused schools in a consortium for the future, for our students' future and for our country's futures. Also to integrate STEM learning across the curriculum by integrating STEM with the curriculum that each school has, and to adopt a whole school approach or a holistic approach that is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals, as Ed mentioned already. Okay, Mark.
Sorry. Sorry, John.
Okay. All right. So why is there a need for STEM education? Well, actually, several decades ago, it was noted that there was a need, first of all, for science and mathematics improvement in school curricula around the world, as well as then engineering and technology as they advanced towards the end of the 20th century. And there was a great need for doing this. So it's to increase the motivation and the achievement of students. Research has shown that students tend to lose interest in the STEM subject after grade 3. So there's a great
we lost you, John. You've been just
John,
on
you're
mute.
on mute.
sorry, I was muted by somebody. I don't know. Was it? It was not I.
Yeah, no.
All you have to say is just, John, stop talking, and I'll just hand it over.
No.
Also to increase participation, because after grade 3, students tended not to be interested and they did not take the STEM subject in high school. So to increase the participation in the subject, and then consequently more STEM careers which are needed, and governments and universities, the medical professions, the professionals, the technology and engineering professions all noted that there was a great need for these, so as to help develop that interest and have more of them go into those fields. And it's also obviously to address economic needs of countries which tend to rely a great deal on the STEM fields. Next one. This is a schematic of the different components of the program, and I will just briefly go through them. Starting in the upper left at what would be 11 o'clock, there has to be stakeholder involvement, people who are impacted directly, whether they be the school staff and teachers and students themselves, but also parents and the community. Advisory groups are important to help the school stay on track with their STEM needs. And these advisory groups I'll talk a little bit more about later. The baseline research that's shown here, this is a survey or a research into what the schools know now about STEM education and how we can help them move from there onward. From that, we have a capacity building program where it's a professional development program for teachers and administrators to help them not only know more about STEM, but how to engage students and implement in the classrooms across the subject areas. The development and increase in learning resources is important, and that's another thing that we help develop. Then, of course, the teaching and learning experiences, the actual STEM activities and research and projects that are done in the classroom that we help teachers develop and implement in their classroom for their students. Other aspects have to do with somewhat peripheral but also important projects in schools, and that would be things like STEM clubs. Some schools have developed STEM clubs for after-school programs. STEM ambassadors are those mentors in the community who are involved in STEM careers that can help students understand what they do and what the STEM subjects are in careers. STEM fairs, of course, are important to develop interest and bring in more knowledge and information to the community as well as the students. And then at the end, there's an assessment and certification process that IAFSW will do for the participating schools. Okay, Mark. The roadmap, as it were, to certifying the schools that IAFSW will do begins with the school assessment, as I mentioned. It's a tool that's used to understand where the school starting point will be. That is then done with a curriculum review and identifying places where the school curriculum can intersect with the STEM learning and teaching experiences. The teacher professional development is a comprehensive one. It's quite detailed, and it is something that we support completely all the way through the program. Student engagement is extremely important. Students are active in the STEM classroom. They, as Mark mentioned before, they identify problems and they decide how to solve them, and they work towards an engineering design to solve those problems. Excuse me. Also, students are involved in developing what we call the 21st century skills. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. Next is the resources and facilities. Sometimes facilities need to be modified to develop a STEM program. Resources could be personnel, could be structures within the school itself. And collaboration with the STEM ecosystem is important. And by ecosystem, we're talking about those community resources that are connected to the STEM professions: agriculture, medical professions, engineering, and computer technology, etc. Community involvement comes in many ways. It can come as a student project or a class project. It can come as much as inviting people to come and share their experiences as STEM professionals. Equity and inclusion is extremely important. We are very serious about having all students have access to this process. It's extremely important to do that because we are not only seeing that it is equitable, but that the STEM professions are lacking in some of the underrepresented groups. Teacher certification. By certification, we're talking from IAFSW after completion of the program. And then afterwards, continuous improvement, either through the consortium itself, feedback from fellow teachers and administrators, and or from IAFSW advisors. Okay, next. So the advisory group that I mentioned before can be a group that is formed from different areas such as higher education, faculty, ministries of education and science, the ministers or other professionals and officials in those ministries. STEM businesses obviously are important in this. And then the school consortium, which is a large group of schools that share the same goals and the same teaching practices. Okay. Next one. Okay. The benefits for schools are not just something that we think happens. This is something we know happens, not just through our experience and feedback and research that we've done with our programs, but also from a very large body of research that's been done for decades in the advantages of STEM education. Students are engaged in this. Students prefer this type of education over the traditional. It does, as I mentioned, it develops their critical thinking, their problem solving, their collaboration skills, creativity through interdisciplinary learning. It also helps prepare students for future careers in technology-driven industries, whether at the university level or on the vocational level. And it increases teacher proficiency in innovative teaching methodologies, something that we strive very hard to help teachers develop in this program. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over to Mark, the main architect of this slideshow, and he's going to tell you about our capacity building program. Mark, take it away.
Thank you, John. John has just outlined our STEM-focused school model, which is a whole school model. It's an holistic model it's a comprehensive model to engage students in authentic STEM learning experiences and with the world of STEM, to prepare them to be that STEM workforce for the future. And we as IAFSW are really committed to providing support for schools across the region. And that's why you're here today, in implementing a whole school integrated approach to STEM, and to engage students in the classroom through authentic STEM learning experiences, which involve them in solving real problems. And to achieve that, we've developed a really comprehensive online supportive capacity building program. And that's what I want to introduce you to now. The program is composed of two programs. One is for senior leaders and STEM leaders working together. And we feel this is very, very important, that they are able to put into place the necessary support mechanisms and structures to support the STEM teachers who are then developed on program 2. So it's really that we feel it's very important to have the two programs, one for the senior leadership teams and STEM leadership teams working together, and the second program for STEM teachers. And we know from experience that if the leadership teams are involved, then things are more likely to become embedded and be sustainable within the curriculum, and easier for teachers to implement because they have that support. So we've developed two programs, and I'm going to introduce those two programs to you. The first, as I mentioned, is the Senior Leadership and STEM Leadership Team Program. And this is really designed to help schools successfully implement a whole school STEM approach. And we take the STEM leadership teams and senior leadership teams through the process of reviewing where they currently are, collecting data, that baseline data that John mentioned. So really understanding what they're currently doing with regard to STEM education and the effect that that's having. How many students are opting to do STEM subjects? What is the progression into STEM at university level or STEM at vocational level? What are the results in STEM subjects, etc.? So carrying out that baseline research, which can then be compared against as the program and whole school approach is developed within the school. Also developing a strategic plan to implement STEM across the school, and engaging with that STEM ecosystem. As John mentioned, it's really important that we understand the needs of the STEM employers, you know, with regard to the skills that students need, or the skills that they want the students to have when they move on to higher education, if that's the route that they take. So this engaging with the STEM ecosystem, who not only can advise, but also participate through mentoring as STEM ambassadors, or through, as John mentioned, work experience, providing those internships for students to gain those workforce related and develop those workforce related skills. Also supporting the schools through the implementation of those strategic plans and action plans, and leading and supporting and reviewing STEM learning. So we as a team support the leadership teams through those processes. So we're not just engaging with the teams through the 3 webinars, through the pre and post webinar tasks, but as they carry out those tasks and implement those in their schools. So it's very much a supportive capacity building model that we're using. And it actually started today, that this orientation session is the first stage in that program. We're actually involving you all in part 1 of that program, which is, the orientation on the whole program, as we introduce you to it today and gain feedback from you today. Then the first webinar for the senior leadership team is on an introduction to the program for senior leaders and an introduction to STEM education and the sustainable development goals. But very importantly, also more detail on the STEM focused school concept and model and how we can put that into practice. So we're going to look at case studies, we're going to look at the evidence, as John mentioned, which supports these good practices. And the good practices that John outlined in the model are practices at which we've been implementing for many years. I dare I say it, I first implemented this whole school approach in 1988 in the school in which I was a head of department at the time. So these good practices have been around for many years. But what we've done is obviously we've modified those and developed them as technologies have changed, as the context has changed, as the world has changed. And I think this understanding of the global impact of STEM is very, very important. Webinar 2 really does focus on then how we collect the evidence of where we are currently. So what we're going to introduce in webinar 2 is the STEM health check tool, which was a tool that I suppose I was involved in developing in the UK as part of the national STEM program. My team at the university developed, ran the one of the action programs, Action Program 8, the STEM Subject Choice and Careers program, which was one of the 11 action programs. And one of those things that we developed was the STEM health check tool, which enabled schools to review where they currently are and to action plan further development, further implementation to achieve what we have outlined is that implementation of the STEM focused school model across the school. So we developed that health check to help schools to both identify where they are and to continue to review progress. And we've also used it as the basis for awarding certificates, which I'll come back to later. Also, what we'll look at in webinar 2 is what data we can collect in terms of understanding the thoughts of students, their parents, etc., with regard to STEM and STEM careers. We can identify what numbers of students are moving on to do STEM subjects, opting to do some STEM subjects, the numbers of students going on to do STEM in the workplace, vocationally, or at university level, and the performance of students in STEM subjects, etc. So we'll look at the data that we can collect as baseline data, but also as data which we can then continue to collect to see how the effects of to look at the effects that the program are having in the school on the students as it progresses. Webinar 3 is very much about focusing on developing the links with the STEM ecosystem and developing the action plan. So we know where we are currently, where do we want to be, how are we going to get there, developing our action plan for a whole school implementation program. And then also, how are we going to implement that action plan and lead STEM learning in the school? Something which is really important is that we're not just running these webinars. Each webinar will have a pre-webinar task or post-webinar task, which leads into the next webinar, which the senior leadership team and STEM leadership team working together as a professional learning community will complete. And then those post-webinar tasks, which are related to doing the review, developing the action plan, implementing the action plan, and supporting STEM learning. We will support you through those processes. We'll provide tools and we'll provide mentoring through online PLC meetings with you. So as you progress through that program, okay, we will provide that support through online PLC meetings. So as an SLT and STEM leadership team working together, we call it as the SLTs working together as a professional learning community, we'll support you through these processes of school review, using the health check, developing the action plan, then developing the links with the STEM ecosystem, and implementing the action plan and leading the STEM learning. And part of that will be the development with the STEM teachers, or it might be STEAM teachers in school, depending on your focus, is the engagement in enrichment and enhancement activities. John mentioned those activities which can enhance the STEM experience both within the classroom. So when students are involved in those authentic STEM learning experiences, you may have STEM ambassadors working alongside the students, mentoring the students on those learning experiences when they're solving problems in the classroom, or when they're involved in projects in STEM clubs or STEM camps. And also, as John mentioned, those internships which might happen in local STEM businesses or in local universities. And of course, something that we'll also introduce is celebrating these achievements through STEM fairs. So we'll support you through these processes, through your professional learning communities. And you can see that we've built that into the program. You'll see that the program is structured in such a way that you're involved in those pre-webinar tasks, then the webinars, post-webinar tasks, webinars, and those meetings with John, Ed, and I as part of the support that we provide as you go through those processes of review, action plan, implementation, review, and support for your STEM teachers. So you'll see that this is all structured. It's all built into the program, and we will negotiate further support with you, further professional learning community meetings with you as you progress through the program and as you implement and support your teachers. So you can see it's a very supportive capacity building model for the SLTs, professional learning communities. And we think this is really important, that we don't just run information giving webinars, that we provide you the support, the tools to enable you to effectively implement in your schools. The program is really targeted at supporting, as I've mentioned, the SLTs, school principals, directors, superintendents, whatever you may call your principals within the school that you're working, and their deputies, and also which will be the normal senior leadership team. You may also have a STEM coordinator in the school. Some do, many don't, okay? But the STEM coordinator would also be involved in this part of the program, as would be the leaders of the STEM subjects, science, mathematics, technology. So they will be involved in this program. So you will work as one PLC together, senior leadership team, STEM leadership team together on the program. And the idea is by the end of the program, everything will be in place to support the STEM teachers as they go through their program and implement back within the classroom and within the school. And I think that is really important. That is why we have the SLTs program. That is why we have that program first, and that is why we provide that support to enable everything to be in place for the STEM teachers. I just wondered if folks could please turn their microphones off. Thank you. Okay, so that will then lead into the STEM teacher program, which is once again a supportive capacity building program. This time it's not just one course, it's actually 5 courses, a progressive program. And I think this is really important. We don't try to take teachers to to project-based learning in one big step. We actually progress through the learning approaches, which we think is very, very important. And similarly, we take the school leaders step by step through the development of the program and implementation of the program. So we do believe very firmly in this step-by-step approach. The model that John outlined isn't achieved overnight. It's something which is achieved progressively. And I think this again is something which we'll emphasize. And it'll happen, it'll take some schools longer than others, depending on their context. And I think this is very, very important, that what we do is address the needs of individual schools and individual teachers. And so once again, you'll see that the teachers program involves the teachers in pre and post webinar tasks. It involves the teachers in implementing in their classrooms the approaches, using comprehensive learning resources that we provide. Okay, as John and Ed and I've mentioned, we've been running national programs across the world over the past 30 years. And we've developed a bank of resources which we will provide to help teachers to implement STEM effectively through active learning, through inquiry-based learning, through problem-based learning, through engineering design and design thinking, through problem-based learning, through project-based learning. So we will provide comprehensive resources to help teachers to implement in their classrooms initially. And I think this is really important. You start to develop your knowledge and understanding on the webinars and through the pre and post webinar tasks. And then you develop that understanding further and correct any misunderstanding while you are implementing in your classroom. And it also provides us that opportunity to give you that support as you implement in your classroom and overcome any challenges that you might find when you implement for the first time in your classroom. And then once you've implemented and reflective, again, as professional learning communities, so once again, the STEM teachers will be working as professional learning communities when they plan and implement and reflect on the learning experiences. We will then, once you've gone through that process, take you step by step through the process of developing your own learning experiences. So again, providing that support as you develop your own learning experiences, you implement them in your classrooms, and you carry out action research to inform your reflections and further improve and develop the learning experiences. So this again is really important, that as you go progressively through the program of courses, then you will have that support again from Ed, John, and me. Again, as I've mentioned, this is for the STEM teacher program or STEAM teacher program. It's a series of progressive courses, taking you progressively through those learning approaches, those STEM learning approaches in your classrooms. The first course is very much an introductory course, introducing you to the program, introducing you to STEM and STEM education, and introducing you to working effectively as professional learning communities. And within those professional learning communities, as reflective partners, to work and develop together, to collect evidence together, to reflect together, to modify learning experiences and go through those cycles together. So we'll introduce you to how you can work effectively as a professional learning community, which is a really powerful professional development model within this capacity building program. And we will then be working with you as professional learning communities as you progress through each course, as you progress through the whole program. Course 2 is starting to introduce you to the first series of learning approaches, the active learning approaches, which you can use to engage students effectively in STEM, both in terms of solving real problems and in, for example, discussing controversial aspects to do with STEM. Okay, we know that STEM has controversial aspects. We know currently that AI can be controversial. So we must give students that opportunity to discuss the controversial aspects of STEM. And so we'll introduce you to approaches which can be used to engage students effectively in not just solving problems, but discussing those controversial aspects. We'll also, in course 1, introduce you to running an effective STEM club. And again, we will do that through the provision of guidance and exemplar resources for running STEM clubs of different ages. I know from experience when I was a teacher that, you run a club and it comes to the evening of the club, and you're thinking, oh, what am I going to do with the club tonight? Well, what we're going to provide is comprehensive guidance, comprehensive resources to help you run clubs. But also, what is important is that you may want to establish a club to pilot the approaches. So it may be that you pilot with a club rather than in the classroom as you implement the approaches, as you develop and implement your own learning experiences. So you might use a club for those purposes. And I know when I was working with teachers in the UK initially, when they were implementing STEM, that some of them preferred to implement through clubs first of all, before implementing in their classroom, to develop that confidence and competence before they used it within the curriculum. So it may be that you use that approach, and that's why in course 1, we not only introduce you to the range of active learning approaches you can use to implement STEM effectively in your classrooms, but we also introduce you to establishing a STEM camp. You'll also notice that the number of weeks for the courses is different. And the reason for that is that we know that, for example, course number 3 is focusing on inquiry-based learning. And we know that inquiry-based learning, for example, using the 5E model, might take longer to implement over a number of lessons than the active learning approaches. Also, it might take longer to develop the learning experience and implement the learning experience in the classroom. And so we allocate more weeks to course number 3 than we do to course number 2. So again, I think that's important that we are aware of the time it takes to implement. So once again, in course number 3, we'll be introducing the approaches. You'll be reviewing exemplar learning resources. You'll be trying them out. You will be implementing. You'll be developing your own through support. So course number 3 is focusing on inquiry-based learning. Course number 4 is focusing on engineering design, on design thinking, on design, and how we use those processes to implement STEM effectively in our classrooms and engage students in solving real problems within our classrooms. And once again, you'll see that there will be 5 webinars that will introduce the approaches progressively. You'll be involved in implementing in your classroom, using resources that we give you. You'll be involved in developing your own learning experiences through support. And also, we'll introduce you to additional enrichment and enhancement approaches. In this case, STEM ambassadors. In course number 3, it was STEM camps. And once again, what we'll be providing are guidance materials to help you to do that effectively. And these are guidance materials that we developed as part of the program that I mentioned in the UK. And we'll also be using videos of good practice to show how it can be done effectively in the classroom. So course number 4 is focusing on design, engineering design, and design thinking. And it's a 7-week program, again, to give time for you to be able to review resources, to be able to try out resources as a PLC, to be able to implement, and to be able to plan and develop your own resources and implement them in your classrooms. And finally, course number 5 is a much longer course, as you can see. The reason for that is that we know from experience that problem-based learning and project-based learning take longer to implement in the classroom and to develop and implement. And that's why the program is a longer program for course number 5. But once again, we'll be introducing you to the structures. And this is really important. All of these approaches, active learning, inquiry-based learning, engineering design, problem-based learning, project-based learning, have structures. They have scaffolds. They have approaches that we use within the structures. So we will be introducing all of that to you so that you can implement effectively in your classrooms, so that you can develop your own resources effectively. This is very, very important. Also, we'll be introducing you to, on course number 5, how to implement STEAM across the curriculum, how to do it in a coordinated way. And I think, again, as you can see, we've been building and building towards this through the program. It's not something you do immediately. It's something you work towards. So we'll be introducing you to how you can structure that in your school so that it works effectively. Also, we'll be introducing you to how you can assess students effectively in these authentic STEM learning experiences, how you can evaluate effectively, and also how you can celebrate through a school STEM fair. Both celebrate your successes, your students' successes, and the successes of the world of STEM around you. So again, we'll be providing guidance to help you to organize and run your own STEM experience. So you'll see that once again, you're going to be working as professional learning communities through each course, through the whole program. You'll be supported by John, Ed, and me as you do that in your PLC teams. You'll be implementing in your classrooms using comprehensive resources which we give you. You'll be implementing in your classroom through resources that you develop and we support you to develop to implement those learning approaches effectively. Active learning, inquiry-based learning, engineering design, design thinking, problem-based learning, project-based learning. So you're going to progress through the program with our support, working as PLCs. And so it's very much a supportive capacity building program through pre-webinar tasks, webinars, post-webinar tasks, and through implementation in your classrooms. First of all, through resources we provide you with. Secondly, with those learning experiences you develop yourselves and implement and evaluate yourselves. So as you can see, this is all built into the structure of a course. So you can see here course number 3, where you can see that the structure of the course will involve pre and post webinar tasks for each webinar, and that ultimately at week 4 you start implementing in your classroom using resources we give you. And we'll be supporting you through professional learning community meetings with you during week 4 as you implement. Also, you'll notice at week 5, there's a webinar organized and run by EduPark, our partners in IAFSW. They'll introduce you to resources from South Korea and to technologies that from South Korea. So in every course, we'll build in week 5, a webinar from the EduPark team. And then, of course, webinar 5 in each program will be helping you to start that development of your own learning experiences, which will apply those structures, those authentic learning experiences that we've introduced you to on the course. You will start to develop your own, supported by us. You will implement them in your classroom or with a STEM club, and you will evaluate and reflect on those experiences as reflective partners, as professional learning communities. So you can see that we've structured each course as a capacity building course. We've built in the implementation, we've built in the professional learning community support. You will work throughout that course as a professional learning community. And I think this is really important. And you'll see that there will be, we'll build times in to the program, and we'll negotiate times with you as individual professional learning communities, because we want to address your needs. Okay, this isn't a program that we're just dumping on everybody. We're addressing the needs of individual schools, individual teachers, individual professional learning communities. The way that we structure the webinars, the 3-hour webinars, is that we'll have, first of all, groups sharing the outcomes of their pre-webinar tasks. So we'll give the opportunity for groups to share what they've done and the outcomes. We will then pick that up and expand the learning with regard to the teaching and learning approach. Then we'll provide, as we do that, opportunities for questions, opportunities for reflection as we go through the webinar. And then finally, at the end, we'll take final questions before we introduce the post-webinar task. So again, the webinars have a structure. What we won't be doing during webinars is having breakout sessions, because we found from experience that often takes time. It often, takes time for people to get into breakout rooms, to come back from breakout rooms, and it can break up the flow of the learning. So we prefer the practical experience to go on before the webinar, to go on after the webinar, and to continue to go on in your classrooms and in your schools through our support, so that you will see that it's a very practical program, that you will be reviewing learning experiences, you will be trying them out in PLCs, you'll be implementing them in your classrooms. You'll be watching video of classroom practice. Okay, we might use it within the webinar, but we'll also use it with the post-webinar tasks. You will be reflecting on the practices in your PLCs. You'll be implementing the practices in your classrooms and reflecting on them. You will be observing each other. You will be reflecting together. You will be modifying together, both within the classroom and beyond the classroom, through the clubs, the camps, the use of STEM ambassadors, and hopefully ultimately your students doing work placements or internships in local companies or in local universities. So you will be putting these into practice as we progress through the program. You will be evaluating them. This will all be supported through the course website. So the course website will have obviously a home page which will describe the program, the schedule for each of the courses, and of course those events, those webinars, the PLC sessions, and ultimately the celebration events will go into the events. Also, we'll post on the website the webinar PowerPoints and videos at the end of each webinar. So it means that you will be able to download the PowerPoints, you'll be able to watch the videos. And I know through past experience that, and some of you I know who've been involved in programs which we've run before, have used that opportunity to watch the video again because there are things that you didn't quite understand or things that you missed. So we know that that's really, really valuable. The pre and post webinar tasks and the resources to support those tasks will be on the website. Also, we talked about, I mentioned those comprehensive learning resources. They will be on the websites for you to download. The active learning, the inquiry-based learning, engineering, design, problem-based learning, project-based learning resources, but also the assessment tools, the exemplar rubrics, the STEM health check, the case studies, the action planning tools, etc. They will also be on the website for you to access, and additional reading. We'll provide background reading for you so that you can read around it. And I know some of you might do research based on this for a master's qualification or even a PhD, or for promotional purposes. So again, we know that additional reading can help you. All that you produce, your pre-webinar tasks, post-webinar tasks, the development plans, the action plans, strategic plans, the learning resources that you develop, your reflections, your reports, will all go into your portfolios on the website. This is really important because John, Ed, and I will review those. We'll give you feedback on your pre and post webinar tasks. We will give you feedback and support during the PLC sessions with you. We will give you feedback through email conversations that we might have with you, as those who have participated in the past will know that we respond to. So the course website is really important for providing the support, providing the resource for you to upload the outcomes of your work. I've mentioned that you work as professional learning communities. This is really important. You collaborate together. You don't work in isolation. You work as professional learning communities, as senior leadership and STEM leadership teams. You work as professional learning communities, as STEM teacher teams, which will also include the STEM leader teams and maybe the senior leadership team members. What we found in the past is if senior leaders are supporting the PLC sessions, they have an understanding of what is happening, but also the teachers themselves feel, look, this is really important because we have senior leadership participation in our PLC meetings. So again, this is, I think, is important to note. So you'll work together as teams in your schools or maybe across schools. You may work as online PLCs across schools If you work in a small school, or if you work in, or your teachers who want to participate in the program and your school isn't participating as a whole school. So you may work as PLCs online. When you've developed your learning resource and you're implementing in your classroom, you will plan implementation together as a PLC. You will support implementation. You might at this stage work as reflective partners, because having 6, possibly 4 to 6 of you in a PLC will be too many to go into the classroom to observe. It's too challenging to release you from your teaching to go and observe. So we found that working as reflective partners within PLCs can help, okay, because it means that you might be able to observe each other more easily in your classrooms. You still may need to video lessons and still observe each other's lesson and reflect together following the lesson. But it is important that you have that opportunity to observe, to reflect, and to share then as a PLC, so that you might work as you'll plan as a PLC, you'll implement as reflective partners, reflect as reflective partners, and then share with your bigger PLC. Within a school, you might have 3 possibly PLCs of 4 to 6 people. So for example, you might have 6 in primary, 6 in lower secondary, 6 in upper secondary. So you might have 3 PLCs within your school. And within those PLCs, you'll have STEM leaders as part of those programs. You might have senior leaders joining in as well, which would be good. So you'll go through those PLC cycles, planning, implementing, collecting data through action research, through observation, reflecting, sharing, modifying, and going through the cycle again. So you'll go through those PLC cycles. You'll work as STEM teachers, okay? So it'll be this program will target STEM teachers and STEM leaders. So the heads of science, mathematics, technology will be included in the program along with STEM teachers. Maybe administrators might want to participate. I know in one of the schools that I taught in, I remember my head attended a program that I was involved in. And I welcomed that. That was great, because he was able to provide that support when I came back to school to implement. So it may be that administrators, in addition to the STEM leaders, might participate in the program. But we know that folks are really busy, and we know that that may not be appropriate. Also, if you're in a government school, you might have supervisors, okay, in your local education authority, who may also want to participate in the program. And they might then join your PLC and work with you and support you as you progress through the program. So again, that's something that might happen. The program we planned it to last a year, an academic year. We have initially sort of starting at the end of August, okay? But from feedback from you, that might change. But we've initially started, thought of starting the senior leaderships program 1, the SLTs program, at the end of August, the 24th of August initially. And then starting the STEM teacher program in late September, the 21st of September. So it gives time for the senior leadership teams to put in place that support, to have gone through the process of reviewing, action planning, and planning to implement in preparation for the teachers starting the program. And as you can see that we've planned the programs through the year so that ultimately at the end of the year we would have a celebration event, an online conference for you all to share your experiences, for your students to present their projects or the problems they've been solving. So it would be a celebration event for all participating schools and teachers online, an online conference. Certification. This is really important. It's really important to recognize your achievements as individual teachers, your achievements as leaders. So we will be certifying each course, but we will provide a certificate for the completion of all tasks. We think that is really important. We don't give certificates for attendance, okay? Because we know that that's not going to have any effect on you. It's not going to make any difference for the youngsters in your classrooms, okay? So we provide certification on completion of all of the tasks. And that's why we're here, to support you through those tasks. That's really important. So we're here to help you to succeed. We're here to help you to successfully implement in your classrooms and therefore successfully gain certification for each of the courses. So we will be awarding certificates for each of the teachers' courses. We'll be providing certificates for the senior leaders course. So all will gain certification. Also, the school will gain certification. Okay, so we will be awarding certificates at 4 levels for the school. We'll be using the STEM health check to do that, to be assessing where you are and awarding you certificates every semester. Okay, and we'll be awarding them at 4 levels. Emerging, developing, extending, leading. And we'll be supporting you to work towards achieving leading, that platinum certificate. Okay, so we will do that through the evidence that you again put into your portfolios. So again, it'll be done very transparently and very fairly. And we want you to succeed. That's why we're here. We want you to be able to implement the program. Okay, I'm going to now just introduce you to some final things before we provide the opportunity for you to for us to respond to your questions and also your advice to us. I've already mentioned that we propose starting the program on the 24th of August with the SLTs course. Then we'll start the STEM Teachers program on the 21st of September. We propose having the webinars on Saturday mornings. We found this to be appropriate when we ran a program across the region last year, that folks found it more appropriate to have the the webinars on Saturday mornings rather than in evenings during the week. But we'll take your advice, okay? But we do think that this is probably going to be the most appropriate. Also, for a program we ran in Thailand, across Thailand, we found that webinars on Saturday mornings were the most popular and most appropriate. What we will do following this consultation with you is that we'll develop the detailed program so that you can then register for the program. We will negotiate the PLC sessions with you. We'll negotiate them at the beginning of each course with you. But we will generally, what we've done in the past is we've had the PLC sessions during the evenings, during the week, from 6 until 9 during the week. But it may be that we might have to have some at weekends because of your commitments. But we will again negotiate this with you. Unfortunately, we do have to charge very modest fees for this program. And you will see that these are extremely modest. IAFSW is a non-profit organization. So we've kept the fees down to the absolute minimum to cover costs. So you will see that what those fees cover are webinar attendance, feedback from us, from John, Ed, and me on your pre and post webinar tasks, the support from us, okay, for your PLCs as you develop, as you implement, as you go through the whole program. It'll include all of those tools, all of those comprehensive learning resources that we're going to give you to help you to implement both within your classrooms and implement the enrichment and enhancement activities, the clubs, the camps, the fairs, the ambassadors, the internships. We'll be providing you with the videos. We'll be providing you with the additional resources. You will have at least seven senior leadership team members involved in the senior leadership team program and in the teacher program. You'll have up to 18 teachers involved, including STEM leadership team members, involved in the teacher courses. So if you were, for example, if you looked at that program, for example, courses 2 to 14, if there are 18 teachers involved in that, it's only 526 baht per teacher. So it is a very, very, dare I say it, cheap program, but we've kept it down to $1 million because we know that that you don't have large budgets, and we really do think that we want this to provide this support at the lowest possible fee. We know we have to be flexible, and so what we've produced are options that, as a whole school, you might want to do the whole school program in 1 year. Or you may want to do it over 2 years, or you might want to do it over 3 years. So you can do the whole school program, the SLT course, the STEM teacher courses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all of that in 1 year, with all the support from John, Ed, and me, all the resources, etc., etc., and certification might be achieved in 1 year at the platinum level, possibly. But you may want to do it over 2 years or 3 years. So we provided those options. It can be flexible because we will run the program every year. So we will have that flexibility. Also, it may be that some of you are in schools where the whole school isn't participating, that you are STEM teachers and you want to participate in the program. And so you, as a PLC of STEM teachers from one school, of 18 teachers from one school, or from a group of schools, a consortium of schools, as John mentioned, grouped together to do the program for STEM teachers, either the whole program or individual courses. So you might group together as a group. Say, for example, I know there are teachers here from different schools in Sabah, in Malaysia. I know that you might group together as a PLC from a group of schools to do the program. Ideally, we would like school leaders involved, school leadership teams, STEM leaders and STEM leadership teams involved, because then you have the support to implement, to embed, to sustainably embed within and beyond the curriculum. Finally, we've also provided options for individual teachers to participate in the program, either the whole program or individual courses. And finally, we provide the option for individuals to observe the video of each webinar for a charge of 200 baht per webinar. So we've tried to provide a range of different options to address your different needs so that we can work with you all, hopefully, and support you all in bringing about change in your schools, supporting the development of a whole school approach to the implementation of STEM and authentic STEM learning experiences in your classrooms. Okay, enough of me. It's now the opportunity for us to respond to the questions that you've been putting into the chat box, the comments that you've been making in the chat box. And so we'll work our way through those. I don't know whether Ed and John, you've had the opportunity to read any of those comments.
Yes, I've read them, and I've also responded to some, but
Right.
the most recent one from Dr. Deepali Shirgava asks, what role can STEM focus on extracurricular activities and programs play in student learning and development?
Okay.
In other words, how do the STEM clubs and camps and STEM fairs help student development?
Well, they can have a real impact on those students that participate. So the students that participate in the clubs, the students that participate in those extracurricular experiences, it can have a significant impact. They're involved in project-based learning experiences, solving real problems within their local community or within the school. If they're attending internships in local companies or in a local university, this can have a significant effect. However, it only has an effect on those students participating in those extracurricular experiences. And that's why we really encourage implementation in the curriculum of those authentic STEM learning experiences. And because then it becomes an entitlement for all. John mentioned this whole emphasis and commitment that IAFSW has to developing all students STEM skills, workforce-ready skills, to prepare all students to participate in careers in the world of STEM. So we firmly believe that we should work towards implementing in the curriculum. And the resources that we will provide will help teachers to implement in the core curriculum, teaching the curriculum that they are expected to teach. And in the UK, it's law, it's part of the law. They should teach that curriculum. So, but that's why we've developed the resources. That's why we will work with the teachers to develop their own resources to implement in the curriculum. as well as through the extracurricular experiences, because John, Ed, and I have so often found that when we go to schools, that sometimes they only have the extracurricular activities. So it only means that a select group of students are having a STEM experience. And we feel very, we're so committed as an association to providing that for all and not just for a small number of students.
And Mark, I might add also
Please,
that
John.
we noticed that some STEM programs are for gifted only. And so we, all of us as educators know that there are extremely creative students that are not necessarily in the gifted program. Gifted program is usually for academic excellence, those students who excel well on taking tests, but there are some incredible opportunities for all students to participate in STEM, and it's exciting for everybody. And it helps all of the students. So that's why we're looking at a holistic approach for an entire school program.
Yeah.
And John, I mean, I want to say something about the maker movement too, after school programs, because students have consumed, and we have teacher shortages here in America, in the USA, and around the world, where students want to do things, and after school gives them an opportunity to do things. So that is why. And with STEM, students start to see the big idea, say, oh, science and technology and engineering, they're all related, and we often forget that.
Another question came up from Mr. Alex from Indonesia, and he wanted to know their school, he thought, would have probably 4 teacher participants, and wondering if that would be enough for a PLC, or should they collaborate with another school?
Absolutely, that's a good number, okay, because you've got 2 reflective partners within that group of 4. So no, that is a good number. You could participate as a group of 4, or if you wanted, you could work with a bigger PLC, but as with another school, but you work as an individual PLC in your school. You work with another PLC online from another school, so you can share your experiences if you wanted to. And this we found very valuable last year, for example, that teachers worked as PLCs, not just within the same school, but online with other schools. And that sharing of experience can also be valuable. But if you're a large school, the large contingent of teachers participating, you might break up, say, 18 teachers into 3 PLCs of 6 teachers, but it's flexible. So 4 will be fine. And if you're a smaller number, you might join with other schools as well. So we want to be able to support all, but 4 will be fine. That'll be perfect.
And we can help them find other schools to collaborate with.
We can,
unless they already have reached out to them.
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I can't. There was somebody saying something, but I didn't catch it. Is there anything else that we need from the you've not answered, John?
Well, one just came up here, and it is how can we integrate STEM with other subjects? Now, I'm assuming they're talking about other non-STEM subjects, such as English, the arts, for example. And that's a good question.
It is, and I would welcome it. When I first did this myself, I actually implemented STEAM. We didn't call it that then, okay, but it was a cross curricular program, and so the way that you do it is you engage them in the program, engage them in this program, engage them in the PLCs, so that they can plan with you. So, for example, if the students were developing a poster or a leaflet or something to go with their project, or as part of a problem they're solving, the English teachers might support the development of that. They might work with the students on their presentation. They might work in English on the development of the poster or the leaflet or the report. Or in art, the students may be part of that development of the engineering design solution. You know, that they might be involved in the creative aspects of the solution. They might be involved in developing a solution which is you know, appropriate to the those that the solution is, the problem is being solved for. In other words, design thinking being put into practice here. So so art, as well as design and technology, mathematics, science, English, can all be involved in this. They will all identify where the students can be applying their subject to solve the problem and to contribute to the solution of the problem.
I agree with that. As an experience from my own teaching, I just, if I had something that a student brought up and it was a good idea for a project or lesson, I often would ask other teachers in other fields or other subjects how I might be able to incorporate that particular subject in my lesson. So even if you're not a STEM teacher, it would be good to ask STEM teachers how you might do that with your own. And it doesn't have to be all 4 of the STEM subjects together. We encourage that, but it's often not practical. But it certainly is something you can ask other teachers to help you with.
Ed?
And Pim, would you make sure that everyone gets a link to this recording? You know.
Yeah.
Another question came up
Yes,
about
sure.
how to register and how to make a payment.
Okay. We will be coming to that in due course. Okay. What we want to do is, first of all, in light of the feedback that we get from you, we might modify things so that we are addressing your needs. And then what we will do is we will send you emails to inform you about the program registration and payment. So that will come following this as follow-up to this webinar. We wanted to consult with you on this webinar because we wanted to ensure that what we provide is suitable, appropriate, and addresses your needs. Also, what we will do is that very shortly you will be completing a survey. Very simply, it's based on what we've talked about, the options, and you providing us with further advice, comments, and questions. What we will do is that we will collate all of that. We'll collate all the questions, and we will answer all the questions, and we'll send the answers to you all. Okay, so we'll send you the questions and answers to all of you. So, and we'll do that within this week. So following today, we as a team will meet to discuss the feedback that we've had from you, to discuss the survey results. We will make any modifications that we feel are necessary as a result of your feedback and advice and the survey. And then we will contact you all to inform you about the final program and how to register and how to make payments. Okay.
Another question came up, and that was, what are the ideal ages to involve students in these programs? And typically it's middle and high school, but from grade 4 on up, I think is pretty appropriate for STEM at those particular levels.
And
you
even
know,
elementary students, very,
So-
grade 1, 2, even
I
primary.
have seen that done in primary schools, yes, at an appropriate level, though.
Yes.
You have to be careful
Oh.
about that. You
Mm.
don't want to
Mm.
you don't want to
Yeah.
set the bar so high that it's not an appropriate way to do it. You do it according to their level, their learning level.
Absolutely. And we had an example when we ran the project-based learning program for Southeast Asia, that a preschool class in Malaysia were involved, and their students solved a real problem for their school, and they did it appropriately at their level. The problem was that there was so much lunch being thrown away because the students didn't like the lunch in the school, that the students had to solve that problem. And what they developed was colorful noodles, that they developed colorful noodles and shaped noodles. But they went through the processes of
They were 5-year-olds.
They were
5-year-olds.
They were brilliant.
Yeah, it was a great program. Yeah.
The problem was introduced to them. They developed an understanding of the problem. They then developed their background knowledge and understanding to solve the problem. They carried out scientific investigations at their level, and they developed solutions, and then they communicated their solution. So they went through that 4-stage model for project-based learning. And they did it, oh, it was wonderful. And those were 5-year-olds. So
And they were developing at a very early age these
mm,
process skills that are so important, the thinking skills, the communication skills, and the collaboration with their classmates. It was wonderful.
it was. And they, the critical thinking that went on, they were thinking about the food colorings and how the food colorings went off. So they were thinking, well, how can we preserve our food colorings? And they did research. It was incredible. All this was done orally. They weren't writing things down at this stage. They didn't have writing skills. They did everything verbally, and it was wonderful. So you can start at those ages, but we do it appropriately for the age. Okay.
Mark, we have 2 questions here.
Sure.
How can STEM education shape the future after 12th? I think 10, 11, 12th. I think that's 12th grade. I think one way it can shape the future, or how can STEM education work? And not everyone needs to go to college for STEM education. Vocational education is becoming very popular again, showing that we need people in the vocational fields, especially in health sciences. And the challenges we face is that we often teach, or we often do things as we were taught. One of the challenges, teachers have to change a little bit and, try to do a project with other teachers. I think that's a challenge.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that, Ed. Ed is definitely right. Not only is it for future, let's say, careers, but in general, what we want, or what the world wants, are adults who can make competent decisions in different aspects of their life, informed decisions, and know how to find information. And STEM education can help them do that with these skills that we're talking about.
Yeah, and these skills can be developed on examination courses. So when you're thinking about grades 10, 11, 12, obviously you're thinking about examination students. And we can integrate these approaches into those examination courses so that the students are getting those authentic STEM learning experiences within the examination courses. Some of those courses expect students to do projects anyway. So your students can do, their STEM projects as part of that examination program. Also, during the holidays, students can be doing internships in business in STEM businesses or at universities. And engaged in projects on those internships in business in university. So they're solving real problems. And you can also have those enrichment activities, the clubs, etc., as well for the high school students. But I do firmly believe that, again, implement it within the courses as well.
Another question came up, which we don't have time to address completely, and this is a huge one. It is, what challenges might we face and how can we overcome them? Now, if we, that's what this whole program is all about. Teachers will face challenges, particularly undergoing new strategies, new ways of thinking about teaching and learning, how to engage students. All of that will be challenges. It's not something that you will just go step in and do automatically and do it well. It will take time to develop those things, confidence, expertise, etc. We liken it to learning to play the piano. You learn the scales, but that doesn't mean the next day you can play a sonata. So it does take time, and we are there for support and helping, and also PLCs are really good at giving support for their fellow teachers and helping give them ideas.
And John, three challenges we face here in education in America with AI right now, artificial intelligence. Those aren't real pictures of Taylor Swift out there, or Joe Biden didn't call you.
Yeah.
We face how do we use mobile phones in the classroom, and social media and privacy. These are some of the challenges we face, and I think STEM education can look at these challenges. So.
Another real quick.
I was going to reiterate what you mentioned, John, is that the reason why we've designed the program the way we've designed it is to be able to support you through those challenges, and we think that is so important. Sorry, John.
Oh, that's okay. One of the things that you won't have a challenge with, and that is student interest. Every single program and every single STEM and inquiry-based program that teachers implement, students are fully engaged and much more interested. And this isn't just from our experience. There is a lot of research out there that shows that these kinds of programs involve the students in such a way that behavior problems decrease, attendance increases, and students really enjoy more their school experience.
Absolutely. And what you will find is you will always be astonished at what the students do. That very often teachers would have said to me, "Oh, well, so that little boy there, he's not very good. He's not very, And yet when they are involved in authentic STEM learning experiences, they excel. And they are so creative, and they achieve at such high levels. When I first implemented STEM in my own classroom in 1988, what the amazing thing was, students were banging on the door at the end of break or during break. They were wanting to come into the room because they had that ownership of the problem. They wanted to solve it. And that led to such high motivation. Those students, their achievement really did raise significantly. And that's why we then did a program across the school, because of that effect on student achievement. And this again is something from the programs I've run across the world, is that has been so significant in all of the countries I've worked in, all of the institutions I've worked with, has been that increase in motivation, that increase in the uptake of STEM, and that increase in student achievement in STEM subjects. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to now pass on to Pim, who I think is going to wrap things up and ask you to complete your survey.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing the very clear and insightful presentation. So before we sign off, I would like to invite all of you to fill out a survey. I will put the link in the chat box now. Okay. So, the link is now in the webinar chat box, and we would be really grateful if you would spend like 10 minutes to complete the following survey. And this will help us prepare the STEM focused school program to meet the needs of your school and you. And we will analyze the survey, prepare the final program and schedule, and inform you via the email so that you can register according to your preferences. And of course, for those of you who fill out the survey, the certificate for this webinar will be available later for download from our website at iafsw.org.
Pim, I wanted to add one more thing, and I think
Yeah.
Mark, I'm not sure if it was presented. We are going to limit the number of participants, are we not?
We'll see how things go. Yeah, we'll see how things are. Yeah.
No, probably not
Yeah.
300 schools.
No, but
I want to
see.
thank everyone for coming today too.
Yeah.
I
do-
agree.
and
Yeah,
I
thank you
do
all.
too.
Thanks, Pim.
Yeah. Thank
Yes.
you all for attending. We hope it's been a useful webinar. We hope that it stimulated interest, and we hope that you'll want to be involved in the whole program. I think that, you know, we really do want to support you in implementing STEM in your schools. We really want that to happen, and we really do. And that's why we provided the options, and that's why we'd encourage you, if you are just an individual teacher, to join with another group of teachers to form a large PLC and participate as that cross-school PLC if you are an individual. So we've tried to provide options to enable participation for all, because we really do want to help and support you. And so thank you all very much for participating today. And we really do hope that we'll be working with you all in the near future. And please complete the survey, because that is going to help us to plan everything to be appropriate for you. So thank you all once again, all of you.
Thank you. And special thank you to our speakers too, John, Ed, and Mark, for sharing the presentations today.
Thank you. Thank you.
So everyone, don't forget to fill in the survey, the link. I put the link up again just now.
Please do. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mark, John, and all team. It's an enriching session. We are looking forward. We'll definitely fill the survey, and let us hope how do we make the things. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. And we will be in touch very, very soon. We'll be analysing it and feeding back to you. As you can tell, we have planned the programme in enormous detail, but we will, in light of your feedback, make adjustments according to your feedback. So thank you.
We're here to help you.
Yeah, we are. Thank you for your comment.
So for more information, you can also visit our website and our social media channels. I put up the website on the chat box.
It's also on the screen now.